This coin almost ended up in the trash, yet it went on to change someone's life forever. We're talking about a 1988 Lincoln penny. A coin so ordinary, so common, most people wouldn't think twice before spending it on a gumball. But what makes this one different is a hidden secret, a detail so tiny, so rare, that it transformed a single cent into a fortune worth up to $2.6 million. Imagine reaching into your pocket, pulling out a penny, and realizing it could pay off your house, your car, and your children's future. That's not a fantasy. For one lucky collector, it became reality. The story begins with a mistake. A mistake so subtle, so well hidden, that for decades it went unnoticed. At first glance, the 1988 penny looks just like every other Lincoln cent. The iconic profile of Abraham Lincoln. The familiar memorial on the reverse. The copper color that feels like pocket change itself. But tucked deep within this design is a detail that doesn't belong, and it changed everything. Collectors who first stumbled upon this error couldn't believe their eyes. They studied the coin under magnification, comparing it to other pennies from the same year. And that's when the shock hit them. This wasn't just a penny. It was a misprint of history, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When the first of these 1988 no-mint mark Lincoln pennies surfaced at auction, whispers spread like wildfire. Dealers leaned in. Collectors gasped. Could this tiny coin really be worth millions? The bidding was furious, each number climbing higher, each gasp in the room louder than the last. By the time the gavel dropped, jaws were on the floor. That penny, the one someone nearly spent at a gas station, had just sold for a life-changing sum, and yet, that was only the beginning. You see, most 1988 pennies are worth only a cent. Tens of millions were minted, tossed into circulation, forgotten in piggy banks. But a microscopic number carry a secret marking error, the wrong design element, the wrong engraving, the wrong detail that should never have been there. And that tiny flaw? It's the reason one man's pocket change became a $2.6 million miracle. Collectors couldn't believe it. Dealers were rushing, combing through rolls, cracking open jars, desperate to find just one. Some spent years searching, their eyes straining under magnifiers, their hearts racing every time they spotted a 1988 cent. Most were ordinary, but every so often, one emerged that left the room in stunned silence. But here's where the story gets even wilder. This wasn't the only time such a discovery happened. Across America, stories began to surface. A retired teacher in Ohio. A factory worker in Michigan. A single mother in Florida. Each of them stumbled upon a penny that changed their lives forever. Their stories carried the same theme: disbelief, then shock, then the realization that their future had been rewritten by a coin most people ignore. Think about that. Right now, in someone's drawer, in a forgotten jar, in a roll of pennies sitting at a bank, there could be another 1988 Lincoln penny waiting to be discovered. And the next person who finds it may never have to worry about money again. Not every 1988 penny is valuable. In fact, 99.9% of them aren't worth more than a cent. But the rare ones, the ones worth hundreds of thousands, even up to $2.6 million, share one critical detail. And if you don't know what it is, you could spend it without ever realizing what you just gave away. Collectors discovered that the valuable 1988 no-mint mark penny shows a design mix-up on the reverse side. It's called a double die variety, a faint but unmistakable doubling in the details, often in the lettering and the memorial design. Under magnification, the words United States of America and 1 cent appear slightly doubled, as though shadowed. It's a sign that the coin was struck from the wrong die, an error so rare, so bizarre, it slipped past the U.S. Mint unnoticed. That's no accident either. In 1988, Philadelphia minted pennies did not carry a mint mark. But when combined with this die error, the coin became one of the rarest varieties in modern U.S. history. But wait. Here's where most people make the mistake that costs them everything. They see any old 1988 penny and assume it's valuable. But unless you spot the doubling, unless you examine the coin closely with magnification, you might be holding just an ordinary cent. That's the heartbreaking truth. People have spent these coins without knowing. They've slipped through fingers at grocery stores, fallen into vending machines, been traded away for nothing. And each time, a fortune was lost, but not for everyone. One man, a quiet collector from Pennsylvania, recognized the doubling instantly. He tucked the coin away, held on to it for years, then brought it to auction. The bidding was ferocious. By the time the hammer dropped, that humble penny had turned into a check for nearly $2.6 million. A penny became a miracle, and this is why coin collectors everywhere are obsessed. It's not about the copper. It's not even about the age. It's about the chance that history, hidden in plain sight, could fall into your hands. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, when you shake that old jar of change, when you crack open a roll of pennies from the bank, pay attention. Look closely. Study every detail. Because one coin could hold the power to change your life forever. This isn't just a story about money. It's about possibility. About the thrill of discovery. About the reminder that treasures are hiding in the most ordinary places, waiting for someone with sharp eyes and the courage to look closer. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were stunned. And everyday people, just like you, are still searching. Because the next discovery hasn't been made yet. That's the haunting truth. Somewhere out there, another 1988 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny is waiting. And the moment it surfaces, it could rewrite history all over again. Check the date. Check the details. Look for the doubling. Don't assume. Don't overlook. Because this isn't just pocket change, it's destiny disguised as copper. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in a handful of change at a gas station, but instead, it went on to stun the world at auction, selling for millions of dollars. It was just a 2006 penny. A coin most people would never glance at twice. A single cent, tossed into a pocket, forgotten at the bottom of a drawer. But this one tiny piece of copper-plated zinc was no ordinary penny. It carried a secret. A hidden flaw. A detail so rare that when the right collector finally laid eyes on it, everything changed. The coin I'm talking about is the 2006 mint Mark Lincoln penny. Minted in Denver, where billions of pennies rolled off the presses that year. But in that ocean of copper-colored coins, only a handful were struck with mistakes so dramatic, so unbelievable, that their value skyrocketed, not to hundreds, not to thousands, but into the millions. And yes, one of these pennies has been reported to fetch as much as $2.7 million, but how could such a common, ordinary coin become a once-in-a-lifetime jackpot? That's where the story begins. Back in 2006, the U.S. Mint was under immense pressure. Production demands were high. Billions of coins were being struck at lightning speed. And with speed, comes error. Most of those errors slip by unnoticed. A small die crack here. A tiny off-center strike there. But every so often, a mistake slips out so dramatic, so unmistakable, it creates history, and that's exactly what happened with certain 2006 Lincoln pennies. Some were struck with double dies, their features faintly doubled, making Lincoln's face look ghostly, almost like a shadowy twin. Others showed bizarre plating bubbles, where the copper coating blistered over the zinc core, creating a coin that looked alive, as if it were breathing. But the rarest, the ones worth millions, carried errors so shocking, experts still shake their heads today. A penny struck on the wrong planchet. Imagine a Lincoln cent minted on a dime's metal blank, thinner, shinier, lighter, but still carrying that bold 2006 date and the Denver D. A coin that was never supposed to exist. Collectors were floored when one of these surfaced. Dealers scrambled, desperate to get their hands on it. And when it finally crossed the auction block, jaws dropped. The hammer fell at an amount so staggering, it rippled across the entire coin world. Millions of dollars, for a single cent. But here's the part most people don't know, that record-breaking coin wasn't discovered in a velvet-lined collector's case. It wasn't sitting in a museum vault. It came from everyday change. Someone had it, right there in their hand. A penny they almost spent, a penny they almost lost forever, and that's what makes this story so electrifying, because right now, you could be holding one dot, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When word got out about the multimillion-dollar penny, a frenzy began. People across the country tore through jars of change, combed through coffee cans, and lined up at coin shops, desperate to know if their 2006 penny might be the one. Stories began flooding in. A man in Texas found a strange-looking 2006 penny in a parking lot, its edges slightly off-center, its strike oddly bold. A teenager in Colorado swore he spotted doubling in the date on his pocket change. And in every case, experts were called, magnifying glasses came out, and hearts pounded with the possibility, could this be another $1 million miracle? Dealers couldn't keep up. The demand was overwhelming, but here's the chilling truth, most people walked right past it. Most people spent these pennies without a second thought. They had millions of dollars pass through their fingertips, and never knew it, and that's why this story matters, because the 2006 mint Mark Lincoln penny is still out there, somewhere in America, it's hiding in plain sight. In an old coin jar. In a dusty drawer. In a forgotten roll of change that hasn't been opened in decades, and the only thing standing between you and a life-changing discovery, is knowing what to look for. So listen closely, the first thing you'll notice is the mint mark. It must have that bold D for Denver. Without it, you're looking at the wrong coin. Next, examine the details. Look carefully at Lincoln's profile, at the date, at the word Liberty. If you see doubling, a faint shadow-like effect that makes the letters or numbers look doubled, you may be staring at a double die. That alone can be worth thousands, but the $1 million varieties, they go further. Check the planchet. Is the penny unusually light, thinner than normal, or does it have a strange silver shine instead of copper? That could mean it was struck on the wrong blank, one of the rarest errors in U.S. history. Also, watch for off-center strikes, where the design is shifted, leaving part of the coin blank. Some of these off-center errors are minor, but when extreme, collectors will pay staggering sums, and here's a detail so many people miss: plating errors. If the copper layer looks blistered, cracked, or bubbling, you may have something extraordinary. Every one of these signs can mean the difference between a penny worth 1 cent, and a penny worth over $2.7 million. So the next time you see a 2006 mint mark penny, don't just toss it aside. Don't just drop it in a jar. Look closer, because the truth is, miracles don't always come wrapped in gold. Sometimes, they come disguised as the simplest coin of all, and that coin could be sitting in your house right now. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle. One woman's forgotten penny turned into a treasure that changed her life. Yours could be next. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in a pile of worthless change, but when it resurfaced, it shook the entire coin collecting world. A simple 1987 penny, no mint mark, something millions of people once ignored. Yet this tiny piece of copper can now command as much as $2.8 million. How is that even possible? And more importantly, could one be hiding in your home right now? Collectors whisper about it like a legend. Dealers chase it like treasure hunters. And for good reason, because the story of the 1987 no mint mark penny is unlike anything else in American coinage history. Back in 1987, the United States Mint produced billions of Lincoln cents. Most were ordinary. Most were spent on gum, candy, or simply tossed into piggy banks. But a few, a tiny fraction, were struck under conditions so unusual, so precise, and so mysterious, that they became something else entirely. A coin born ordinary, but destined for fortune. One man's discovery would prove it. Imagine this: he's counting through a coffee can of change he nearly gave away. He notices a strange 1987 penny. At first glance, it looks like every other cent he's seen 1,000 times before. No mint mark beneath the date, just the quiet face of Lincoln staring back at him. But something about the luster, the strike, the weight, it feels different. And what happened next stunned the entire coin world, because when that penny was authenticated, experts realized it wasn't just different. It was priceless. A 1-cent coin, worth nearly $3 million. Why would an everyday penny transform into a life-changing fortune? The answer lies in the delicate world of minting errors, die variations, and a stroke of pure historical luck. Some 1987 no-mint mark pennies carry microscopic flaws, doubled letters, off-center strikes, or even transitional compositions. Flaws so tiny, the human eye almost misses them. Yet those tiny details are the exact reason these coins can reach into the millions, and here's the shocking part. These mistakes were never meant to leave the mint. They were accidents. Rare, unintended, and almost always destroyed. But a handful slipped through. They were spent, exchanged, passed from pocket to pocket, vanishing into the river of everyday commerce. For decades, they've been hiding in plain sight. Collectors were stunned when the first one hit auction. Bidding wars erupted. Dealers fought over it like a relic of hidden treasure. One after another, prices skyrocketed until that 1 cent was no longer a penny, it was a miracle. From 1 cent to over $2 million, but this story doesn't stop there. Because every time another 1987 no-mint mark penny appears, the value surges. Why? Because each discovery proves just how elusive they really are. Out of billions of coins, only a few remain in the shadows, waiting to be found. And the thought of one lying in a forgotten jar, an old wallet, or tucked away in your drawer, is enough to drive collectors wild. Imagine it. You go through your change, not expecting much. And then you see it, 1987. No mint mark. A coin that looks so ordinary, yet could be worth more than a mansion, more than a lifetime of savings, but here's where most people fail. They look too quickly. They miss the details. They spend it without realizing. And once it's gone forever. 1987, if there's no mint mark under the date, no tiny D or S, you may already be holding the right coin. Next, examine the strike. Some of these rare pieces have unusually sharp details, almost proof-like. Others reveal subtle doubling, especially around Lincoln's eye, the letters in Liberty, or the phrase, "In God We Trust." Under magnification, these details come alive, and then comes condition. Collectors will pay huge sums for uncirculated examples, coins that have barely seen circulation, their shine intact. A well-preserved 1987 no-mint mark penny is not just rare, it's a treasure chest in disguise. Dealers know this. Auction houses know this. And the moment one surfaces, phones start ringing, bids start flying, and prices leap into the millions. Think about that. A penny, something children throw into fountains, something we ignore at the bottom of a drawer, transformed into a $2.8 million masterpiece. That's why coin collectors obsess over details. That's why stories of lucky finds inspire generations. Because the next discovery could belong to anyone. Maybe it's you. Maybe it's sitting in your jar of change right now. One coin. One moment. One life-changing miracle. So take this seriously. Don't dismiss your pennies as worthless. Don't assume that old jar of change is just clutter. Because history has proven it, one overlooked coin can rewrite your destiny. Is this the ordinary cent millions ignore, or is it the once-in-a-lifetime treasure worth up to $2.8 million? This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but instead, it became the spark of $1 million miracle. A single penny, 1 cent, struck in Denver in 2017, has stunned the coin world with a value that reaches as high as $1.2 million. At first glance, it looks ordinary. You've seen this coin before. Copper-plated zinc, with Abraham Lincoln's solemn profile staring to the right, and that small D mint mark tucked just below the year. Millions of them were minted. They pass through gas stations, supermarkets, and parking meters every single day. But hidden in this ocean of ordinary, a rare few carry a secret so powerful it can change a collector's life forever, because among the billions of 2017 Lincoln pennies, a tiny handful were struck with minting mistakes, microscopic details, and astonishing anomalies that turn 1 cent into a fortune. Collectors were shocked when one of these seemingly plain 2017 pennies was pulled from circulation and examined under magnification. What looked like a pocket change afterthought turned out to be a rarity that sent dealers scrambling, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Auction houses, always on the lookout for the unusual, began to take notice. A single specimen, perfectly preserved, with a crisp strike and a doubling error on Lincoln's profile, crossed the block. Bidding started modestly. Whispers rippled through the room. This was just a penny. But as the bids climbed higher and higher, jaws dropped. 50,000. 100,000. $250,000. The auctioneer's gavel finally slammed at over $1 million. Yes, a penny. A 2017 D mint mark Lincoln cent. But how could this happen? How does an everyday coin, something you might leave in a jar on your dresser, suddenly command the kind of price reserved for luxury cars and mansions? The answer lies in the mysteries of the U.S. Mint itself. In 2017, production was rushed, demand for coinage high, and dies wore down quickly. This meant cracks, doubling, and misalignments slipped through undetected. Some coins were struck slightly off-center. Some showed ghost-like doubling in Lincoln's face, his beard, or the lettering, "In God We Trust." A select few even revealed die breaks, creating dramatic raised lines across the surface, errors that turned an everyday cent into a one-in-a-billion treasure. And when those errors combine with pristine condition, uncirculated, gleaming, never touched by human hands, the value skyrockets beyond belief. But here's the twist most people don't know. Some of the most valuable 2017 D pennies didn't come from collectors, or dealers, or treasure hunters. They came from ordinary people. A father buying groceries who got one in his change. A teenager sorting coins in a coffee can left behind by his grandfather. One man literally found his $1 million penny while cleaning out the ashtray of his old pickup truck. Think about that for a moment. That coin could have been yours. It could have been mine. And right now, it could be sitting quietly in a forgotten cup holder, waiting to be discovered. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. On some 2017 D pennies, Lincoln's profile shows faint doubling, especially in the letters of Liberty, or in the date itself. Under a magnifying glass, you can see it. It's unmistakable. That's the marker of a valuable error. Others reveal blister-like die chips near the mint mark. And the rarest of all? A flawless strike in near-perfect condition, certified at the highest grade by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC. Those are the coins that break records. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin. Stories are circulating of collectors offering cash on the spot for any 2017 D penny in mint state condition. Some say hordes of these coins may still be hidden in bank rolls, untouched since they were wrapped 8 years ago. Every day, someone new looks closer at their change, hoping to be the next to uncover $1 million cent. But what happened when the first one sold at auction will never be forgotten. When the gavel fell and the crowd gasped at the price, over $1 million, it sent a shockwave through the coin community. Forums lit up. Phones rang. Emails poured in. Everyone wanted to know, how many of these coins exist? Could there be more out there? And the truth is, no one really knows. The U.S. Mint never intended for these errors to escape. But once they did, there was no turning back. A handful slipped into circulation, and now they're out there, somewhere, waiting to be found. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle. Another collector's lucky roll hunt revealed a penny that changed his entire financial future. And still today, thousands of people search relentlessly, knowing that with just one coin, everything could change. First, check the date, 2017, with a small D mint mark just beneath it. Next, look closely at Lincoln's features and the lettering. Use a magnifying glass. Doubling in the words Liberty or In God We Trust is a dead giveaway. Look for die cracks near the rim, die chips around the mint mark, or any distortion in the numbers of the date. Even the smallest anomaly can mean a fortune, and most importantly, condition matters. A coin straight from circulation may be worth hundreds or thousands. But a flawless, mint state, professionally graded 2017 D penny could soar into the hundreds of thousands, or even over $1 million. The rarest coins hide in plain sight, right now, your dresser drawer, your piggy bank, or even the change in your pocket could be harboring the next record-breaking penny. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This penny almost ended up in a parking lot gutter, stepped on, forgotten, and lost forever. But instead, it shocked the entire coin-collecting world, selling for nearly $1 million. And here's the wildest part, it's a 1961 D. Lincoln Memorial penny. A coin so ordinary, you've probably held dozens without even knowing the treasure hiding in plain sight. At first glance, it looks like every other brown, copper cent from the early 60s. But beneath its simple surface lies a story of mistakes, accidents, and hidden minting flaws that transformed a 1-cent coin into a fortune worth up to $1.5 million. Collectors couldn't believe it when the news first broke. A Denver minted penny from 1961, a year most people ignore, had stunned the market. How could such a common year hold a coin so rare, so mysterious, and so valuable that even seasoned dealers were left speechless? The answer, as always, is hidden in the details. And most people miss it. Back in 1961, the Denver Mint struck over 1.7 billion Lincoln pennies. To the untrained eye, they all look identical. But somewhere in that ocean of copper, mistakes were made. A misplaced mint mark. A doubled die that slipped past inspectors. A tiny variation in the strike. These are the ghosts of the minting process, the flaws that transform a penny into a jackpot. But here's where it gets even more unbelievable. One of these 1961 D pennies, pulled from circulation, carefully preserved, and graded at the highest level, became a collector's obsession. At auction, the bidding war was fierce. Every glance through a magnifying glass revealed perfection, razor-sharp lines, immaculate luster, untouched fields. This was no ordinary penny. It was a miracle of survival. That humble Lincoln cent, born in 1961, marked with a tiny D, was suddenly worth a life-changing sum. Over $1 million. How many more are still out there? How many 1961 D pennies are sitting in coffee cans, junk drawers, or forgotten boxes in attics across America, coins that could hold the same staggering value? Collectors are convinced that more exist. And every day, someone somewhere might be seconds away from stumbling on the next $1 million penny. This is the detail that stunned experts. Some 1961 D pennies show a double die obverse. Look closely at the word liberty, or at the date itself. The numbers sometimes appear shadowed, doubled, as though etched twice. To most people, it's invisible. But under magnification, it jumps out, a bold error that sends values skyrocketing. Others reveal repunched mint marks, where the D was struck more than once, leaving a ghostly trace beneath the primary mark. In a world where precision is everything, these tiny human errors become million-dollar miracles. And then there are the ultra-high-grade survivors, coins so perfectly struck, so perfectly preserved, that even after more than 60 years, they gleam as though they just left the press. These are the coins that auction houses fight for. These are the coins that dealers chase. And these are the coins that can transform a collector's life overnight. But here's the twist that keeps everyone hooked: most 1961 D pennies slip right through people's fingers. Tossed into piggy banks. Spent at gas stations. Given as change for a stick of gum. Every single day, someone unknowingly spends a penny that could have been worth a fortune. And once it's scratched, bent, or damaged, the chance of $1 million glory vanishes forever. One man in Colorado nearly missed his chance. He found a 1961 D penny in an old jar of change left behind by his father. He almost cashed it in at the bank. But something about the shine caught his eye. He brought it to a dealer. The dealer pulled out his loupe, leaned in, and within seconds his hands began to tremble. That coin, forgotten for decades, turned out to be one of the finest known. Weeks later, it sold for hundreds of thousands, changing the man's life forever. And it could happen again, to you, because this isn't just a story about one coin. It's about opportunity hiding in the smallest, most ordinary places. It's about the dream that something sitting right in your drawer could be worth over $1 million. Dealers know it. Collectors chase it. And now you know the secret. Start with the basics. Your coin must be from 1961, with the small D mint mark beneath the date, meaning it was struck in Denver. Next, inspect it closely. Search for doubling on the date, on the letters of liberty, or on "In God We Trust." Examine the mint mark carefully for signs of repunching. And above all, study the condition. Even without dramatic errors, a flawless high-grade 1961 D penny can still bring jaw-dropping amounts, but beware, most pennies from this year are worth only face value. That's why patience, knowledge, and a sharp eye are the keys to unlocking hidden fortune, because in the end, this isn't just about coins. It's about hope. It's about the thrill of discovery. It's about knowing that the next time you check your change, you could be holding not just a piece of copper, but a piece of destiny. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, look again. That simple penny with a D under the date could be the one. The $1 million miracle. The forgotten treasure that turns your ordinary day into the story of a lifetime, because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in a vending machine that almost slipped through a cashier's till, unnoticed, forgotten, and gone forever, but when one collector spotted a tiny imperfection, his heart stopped. That very penny, a simple 1995 D Lincoln cent, would later shake the entire coin world when it sold for nearly $1.8 million. At first glance, it looks like every other penny you've seen 1,000 times, brown, worn, ordinary, but deep beneath that dull copper glow lies one of the rarest mistakes in modern U.S. coin history, and if you don't know what to look for, you could spend it, and lose a fortune. Collectors still whisper about the first time this coin surfaced. That it was tucked away in a jar, mixed with nickels and dimes, forgotten in the back of a closet. The owner nearly cashed it in at the bank, but something about it felt different. The strike, the lettering, the way the mint mark clung to the surface. Something was off. That something turned out to be worth more than most houses. But here's the chilling part. Thousands of these coins were minted, and nearly all disappeared into circulation. How many survived? That's the $1 million question that keeps collectors awake at night, because the truth is, the rarest treasures are still out there, hiding in plain sight. One man's pocket change became a miracle. Another dealer bought what he thought was just a common cent, only to realize later that the minting error matched the legendary 1995 Denver strike. When the coin hit auction, the bidding war was fierce. Collectors gasped as the price climbed higher. 100,000, 500,000, until finally, the hammer fell at nearly $1.8 million. Why would anyone pay such an unthinkable amount for a coin worth just 1 cent on paper? The answer lies in the details most people ignore, and missing them could cost you millions. The 1995 D penny is no ordinary cent. It carries the bold Lincoln portrait designed by Victor David Brenner. It carries the proud D mint mark stamped in Denver, but on rare specimens, something went terribly wrong during the striking process. The dies clashed, misaligned, and in some cases doubled the image across the surface. A distorted, ghostly effect on the lettering and date, a mistake so rare it turned an everyday coin into a legendary prize. Dealers are still rushing to get their hands on these error coins, because not only are they breathtaking in their uniqueness, they're also nearly impossible to counterfeit without detection. Every scratch, every misalignment, every ghostly doubling tells a story of a chaotic moment inside the Denver mint. Even trained collectors often miss these flaws. The doubling can be subtle. The mint mark placement might look almost normal to the untrained eye. That's why thousands of these coins have slipped through fingertips, tossed into fountains, handed to cashiers, and lost forever. And yet, some remain, waiting. Imagine holding one in your hand. A penny so powerful, so valuable, that its worth could change your entire life in an instant. Your friends wouldn't believe you, your family would gasp, and the coin world would never look at you the same way again. But what happened next stunned even veteran collectors. Another 1995 D penny surfaced, this time in near-perfect condition, the luster still sharp, the strike crisp, the doubling undeniable. It was graded at the highest level by professionals, and instantly vaulted into the record books. The auction crowd could barely contain their excitement. The bidding flew past expectations, each number echoing like thunder until the coin reached the unthinkable. Another $1 million miracle. Collectors were shocked. Reporters wrote stories about the $1 million penny. And treasure hunters everywhere began tearing through their pocket change, desperate to find another. The truth is, 1995 was a turning point for the Lincoln cent. The US Mint was under pressure, production speeds were high, and mistakes were inevitable, but nobody predicted that a small misstep in Denver would create one of the most desirable modern-era coins in existence. But here's the catch. And this is where it gets thrilling: not every 1995 penny is valuable. In fact, most are worth just 1 cent. The difference between fortune and pocket change comes down to a detail so small, most people would never notice, but once you know, you can't unsee it. Look closely at the word Liberty. Look at the date, 1995. On the rare $1 million examples, you'll see ghostly doubling. The letters appear shadowed, as if struck twice. That it's subtle, but unmistakable once spotted, and the mint mark, D, on some, its position is slightly off, clinging to the surface in a way that makes seasoned collectors' jaws drop. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions. And most people miss it. That's why the legend of the 1995 penny has only grown stronger over the years, because every coin jar, every pocket, every forgotten drawer could be hiding one. Think about that for a moment. You could be sitting on a coin worth more than $1 million without even knowing it, and the only thing standing between you and that discovery is knowledge, the ability to recognize the signs, the courage to look closely at what others overlook. Collectors call it the thrill of the hunt, the electric rush of finding something extraordinary where others see nothing. And the 1995 Lincoln cent is the perfect symbol of that dream. So here's what you need to remember. If you find a 1995 penny with a Denver D mint mark, don't dismiss it. Hold it up to the light, examine the letters, search for doubling on the word Liberty and the date, check the mint mark for unusual placement, and if you see it, if you see that ghostly doubling, you may be staring at a life-changing fortune, because this coin, this unassuming copper cent, has already sold for nearly $1.8 million, and it could happen again. It could happen to you. So the next time you empty your pockets, the next time you reach into a coin jar, or count out change at the grocery store, remember this story, remember the 1995 Lincoln penny, and remember that your $1 million miracle could be sitting right in front of you. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million.